So for just a minute, follow me down a rabbit hole. I don't usually like to because they're full of rabbits. But let's just pull this apart a little bit. He claimed he was only gone for a few days when he was gone for about a week. Nobody had seen him since Tuesday. He came out there with a bunch of people huddled around him who didn't need to be there. Of those 5 people who came out there with him, only 2 of them spoke. And they only said a couple sentences to kiss his ass. They didn't need to be there. And as far as I'm aware, the media was not allowed into the Oval Office. But we know Steve Doocy from Fox News was in there, as well as at least one other woman who was asking him questions. Of course, they just gave him simple softball questions, and he still rambled on about Biden and about absentee ballots. But let's dig a little bit deeper into what he said. Because when Steve Doocy asked him, "Oh, did you hear the rumors that you had died or something?" And Trump was like, "No, I didn't hear that." And then he immediately went on a long rant about how, yes, he had indeed heard of it. And then, almost as if he had prepared it ahead of time, he listed off all the places he supposedly was, even though nobody saw him there. For example, the president's itinerary is public for the most part. And there were no public events listed on his official itinerary for the entire weekend. And the only one that was on his itinerary for Friday was a private interview supposedly with the Daily Caller, which as far as I can tell there is no audio or video of, there is just a written transcript. So that doesn't really help us. And he said in the Oval Office that he did multiple interviews and numerous news conferences, which there's absolutely no evidence of him doing. So once again, the only time anybody heard from him in the last week was on Turd Social and supposedly a transcript of an interview. And once again, it's glaringly obvious that this did not need to be a press conference. He had already said that he was going to move Space Force from Colorado to Alabama. Yet a day before that Oval Office press conference, they hyped it up as to be this big announcement, because the only reason they had that press conference was proof of life to show that he wasn't dead. And as usual, not only was his face swollen, his eyes swollen, and his hand was bruised. While I can't confirm this, somebody pointed out that he had a broken blood vessel in his eye that he was covering up with contacts. But they obviously well orchestrated this huddle around him to present him to the press to show, look, he's totally fine. And I truly would not be surprised if now that they did that, he goes another several days without being seen.